And what is going on, everybody? Happy Sunday and happy Rivalry Week. Man, I am fired up to get into the show. Probably one of my favorite weeks. I know that it's bittersweet to all college football fans. It is the last week of the regular season, which is crazy. It feels like the season just flies by faster and faster every single year that we're doing this show. And next year will definitely be sentimental as we'll be turning 10 years here on SEC Talk. But we got a lot to talk about what happened in week number 13. I know week 13 wasn't really much of a good slate. A lot of cupcakes and then a lot of blowouts in these conference games. So week 13 was a dud. But week 14 is definitely going to provide some fireworks both for playoff implications and SEC championship implications. So with all that being said, we're also into Thanksgiving week. So as always here, have a little festive show for you here once I pull up the slides. But with all that being said, Wade, how was your weekend?
Pretty good, minus that LSU game, but we'll talk about that maybe a little bit. But yeah, not much college football on. It was a good time to go ahead and get those Christmas lights up so that we can sit back and watch football this week.
Yeah. Hey, that's
of course, after we eat and spend time with family, the important things in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was definitely a good weekend, to get your holiday decorations, maybe do some early shopping, maybe look at some early Black Friday deals. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive in to our slate before we get into our week 13 breakdown. As always, if you have any questions pertaining to SEC football or just football outside the conference too, because I know that we're SEC talk, but if you have other questions about like, hey, should my team be in or not? Definitely feel free to leave us a question in the comments, and we will get to it after the hot topics. Just a reminder, we are both live on both Facebook and on YouTube. So if you have any comments, I'll look and check that at the end of the show, and we will get to that. So let's go ahead and dive into our top 4 games of the week. All conference games. We're really not going to talk about much of like the FBS versus FCS games. I mean, we're not even going to talk about the LSU West Kentucky game because there's not much happening in that game, but we will get into most of our SEC games here that really capped off this Week 13 slate. As you had your first game of the day, number 22 Missouri at number 8 Oklahoma, and not too much offense in this game as you've seen in the majority of these SEC games this week. Oklahoma ended up winning this one 17-6, and Missouri in the first half, like almost going into the halftime, was really in control, just didn't really show on the scoreboard. You did see Bo Pribula back in this game, so that was definitely a huge boost for that offense. Ahmad Hardy got a couple of big runs in the first half. We'll talk about what happened to him in the second half. But Oklahoma and his big-time plays and Isaiah Satenga, 67-yard touchdown, was able to put Oklahoma ahead. And after that, Oklahoma's defense really shut down Ahmad Hardy and that rushing attack. And once you shut down Ahmad Hardy, Missouri is pretty much out of the game because Ahmad Hardy has really been a game changer for the Missouri Tigers. But Oklahoma, nothing really too fancy on offense, like I mentioned, outside that big play that resulted in a touchdown from Isaiah Satenga. I mean, Oklahoma didn't really get too much. This defense, though, it's definitely going to be a problem, especially if they make it into the college football playoff, and especially if this offense can really put it together, because you definitely have some playmakers like Isaiah Satenga and then the running back, Troy Blaylock. So it was an ugly game all in all on both sides, but defense continues to prevail for Oklahoma, and the Sooners are now just one win away from punching their ticket to this 12-team playoff.
Yeah, did you know that Oklahoma has the most top 25 wins of anybody in the country?
Yeah, more than Ohio State will ever have this season.
Yeah, I mean, that just caught me by surprise because, I mean, they are a 2-loss team, meaning they lost to 2 ranked teams. They lost to Ole Miss at home, and then they lost who was their second loss?
They beat Alabama. Oh, it was Texas. They lost 26-3. Yeah. That was the game where John Mateer was coming back from that thumb surgery.
Yeah, so they've played a ranked team almost every week, it seems. And honestly, I feel like, yeah, the Alabama game is probably their signature win, but like, I just feel like this team hasn't had like that. I really just hadn't felt like they had a signature win or a signature loss. Like, I just thought they were like an overall solid team. But anyways, they are one of the more consistent units, especially that defense. It's looking good. John Mateer, I mean, he's not lighting it up like he did before the injury, but he is controlling the football. And allowing his teammates to make plays. So I think this team's in good shape going forward, and this was by far their best defensive performance against Missouri. I mean, it's no small feat to stop Ahmad Hardy and hold this Missouri team to just 6 points.
Yeah, absolutely. So big win for the Sooners. They'll host LSU. Missouri will go on the road for back-to-back weeks. They'll have the Battle Line rivalry game against the Razorbacks, who are still looking for their first win in the conference. We will definitely get to all those games moving forward. I think we're going to talk like a couple of minutes about this game. This wasn't really too much of a competition. I know that you were big on Kentucky. You ended up picking Kentucky in this one. That pick lasted about a minute into this game as Vandy won this one 45-17. The crowd in Nashville continues to impress me week in and week out. I definitely think that Clark Lee is doing a terrific job there. And Diego Pavia, 523 total yards of offense. So Diego Pavia would have been the right pick for SEC Fantasy, as we will get to here in a couple of minutes. But Vandy is now only one win away for potentially, getting into that 12-team playoff. We'll have to see what happens like in the ACC, because the ACC is definitely going to be discombobulated, especially with Georgia Tech losing to Pitt. And we'll have to see what happens, in the Big 12 this week and with Texas Tech and BYU. But Vandy, I mean, not really much to say about this one. I didn't really expect like this big of a blowout. I did pick Vandy to win this one. But it's definitely crazy that Vandy is definitely capable of this type of win. Their defense was phenomenal. You didn't really see Bully get too much involved in this offense. And Kentucky didn't really have any answer. A lot of big plays that were generated by Diego Pavia in this offense. So Vandy continues to roll. They'll have a big test in Neyland. So what are your takeaways? I know that you were pretty high on Kentucky. What do you see from their end? And I know that you got to be impressed with Vandy so far this season.
Yeah, I think this was less of a reflection about where Kentucky's at and more just about Diego Pavia just willing this Vanderbilt team to a big victory. I mean, the offense is just really clicking as of late. We saw them put up 40-plus points against Auburn and now here against Kentucky. So this team's moving the football really well. They're playing to Diego's strengths. The defense was better, but they have been a liability at times. But what this is all about is Vanderbilt trying to make a statement victory, one that pops out, one that gets the committee talking about it, because they do know that, even though they're inside the top 12, they probably need to climb up to about number 10, like you said, with the ACC getting an automatic bid, a group of 5 team getting an automatic bid, and the head-to-head loss to Texas and Alabama, 2 teams that are kind of in the same ballpark as them. So they need statement victories like this. It was a good one. They have another chance to do it this week against Tennessee.
Yeah, absolutely. So big rivalry games coming up for both of these teams. Kentucky still needs one more win to get to bowl eligibility. We will see if that happens. Now let's go on to the next one. And man, this was a lot of points. If you liked offense, this was definitely the game for you. It's Arkansas went on the road to number 17 Texas, and Texas puts up the 50 burger on them, 52-37. This game at times, they had some close moments, but it felt like the Longhorns were in complete control. And Arch Manning, probably his best game of his career so far. He had a receiving touchdown. He had 6 total touchdowns. All he was missing was a rushing. Actually, he did have a rushing touchdown. So he had a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and a receiving touchdown. So Arch Manning, after all like the early season, like maybe he was too overhyped just because his last name is Manning. You're seeing this Texas offense really put together these past couple of weeks. I know that the defense didn't really play well at times, but Arkansas's offense has been like a top 10 offense in the country. It's just the defense had just been so pathetic. That's pretty much why that Arkansas is where they are at 2-9, heading into the final game of the regular season. And Taylor Green played phenomenal. He did go out with an injury, so you did see Jackson, the backup. Mike Washington continues to be one of the more underrated running backs in all the SEC. Another 100-plus rushing game for him. He also had a couple of receiving yards too. But Texas is definitely a team that, maybe if things go right for them, I know that they're 9-3, but hey, with a couple of things going their way, this past week, Georgia Tech losing with the ACC, like I mentioned, just becoming a complete dumpster fire. Obviously, they would have liked Utah losing to Kansas State. That also would have helped them, but it feels like Texas is just going to have to blow out Texas A&M, and feels like every team ahead of them at this point is going to have to lose. But I've definitely been impressed with Texas. Outside of last week's game against Georgia, the offense has definitely stepped up, and this was definitely a huge win to stay alive in the playoff race. I know it's very slim, but anything can happen in college football.
Hey, look, I mean, the offense is clicking at the right time, and what a better opportunity than to beat Texas A&M at your home turf. Rivalry games, crazy things happen anyways, but I mean, I think this Texas team's playing to their full potential right now, and we've seen A&M be susceptible to letting up some points. I mean, I know the defense has looked better, but if Arch Manning's playing like we all thought he would going into the season, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind he can go shot for shot with Marcel Reed. So
yeah,
this team's not out of it yet. They'll need some help, but like we mentioned, they do have the head-to-head victory over Vanderbilt, so that helps, and the head-to-head victory over Oklahoma if they were to slip up and get 3 losses. So, still something to play for if you're Texas. A little concerning to let up 37 to Arkansas, but like you said, it's kind of an underrated offense. So you just kind of forget about it. You still won the game by double digits. So
so a good win for the Longhorns. Texas, like you mentioned, will be going up against Texas A&M. Arkansas will have a home game against Mizzou to just find something in this season, because it's definitely been a disappointing one for the Razorbacks. So we will see how both these teams will finish out their 2025 campaigns. And let's move on to the next one. Another blowout that we'll talk about, number 20 Tennessee at Florida, 31-11. Florida, I mean, they got the 11 points in garbage time, to be honest with you. Got a field goal, and then they got a late touchdown. They went for 2 to make it 11, but going into half at one point, it was 31-0. And I'm sure that Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler were just ready to go home at that point. I picked Florida. I thought there was going to be a little bit of fight. There's no fight in this team whatsoever at this point, especially with all the injuries that they have. Like, 2 of their best receivers are gone. I mean, Jadon Ball continues to be like their lone bright spot. DJ Lagway was awful in this game. I mean, Tennessee's defense isn't like world beaters. They've been letting up a ton of yardage and a ton of points every single game. So disappointing overall, especially at night in the swamp. You had Urban Meyer, the Ring of Honor ceremony. You'd think that the environment itself would, push them. But Tennessee, their first win in the swamp since the 2003 season. So it's been quite a minute since the Big Orange have gotten a win. But Tennessee's offense continues to shine. We're going to get into Joey Aguilar. Aguilar only had like 200, yards, but it was the running backs that really got involved in this one. So Tennessee, like Texas, probably out of the college football playoff. They're just stacking up wins. I'm sure that this definitely felt nice. Like I mentioned, ending the drought. I know this isn't like your 1990s, like early 2000s Florida team, but it's still nice to beat your rival, especially in the swamp.
Yeah, I mean, get the monkey off your back. You hadn't won down in the swamp in a long time. Another rivalry game where crazy things happen. So it's good to be dominant, and it's the college football playoff has pros and cons. It definitely lessens the impact of some of the New Year's Day bowl games, but it's a good opportunity for a team like Tennessee that might be one of the odd teams out to represent the SEC in a game like the Sugar Bowl or the Orange Bowl, a game that historically you would have had to have been a top 10 team to get to. So that's good for program. It's good to get extra practice as a team and see what you have going into next year. So that's kind of where Tennessee's at in my mind.
Yeah, for sure. The Vols definitely have a big test coming up against Vandy. And they want nothing more than to spoil their little brothers' hopes and dreams, making the college football playoff. Florida, well, they're not really playing for anything, but still in the rivalry week to knock off a team like Florida State that's also been struggling this season too. So it's just going to be the battle of the struggles in Gainesville this Saturday. I believe that game is afternoon. Now let's move on to our Week 13 pick'em results. 9-1 for both of us. And Chet, look at you go, 10-0.
Chet.
Yeah, he really cruised after coming around 500 past couple of weeks. He just explodes. I mean, this was the week to do it. It's Cupcake City, but 10-0. Definitely congratulations to Chet. And, he hasn't really been picking too many outlandish picks, but I feel like that is going to change, especially in rivalry week. So 9-1 for Wade and I. Chet is a perfect 10-0. So that concludes our week 13 pick'em results. We will continue with our SEC teams in the AP Top 25 poll. We're not going to really spend too much time on it because not really too much movement with our SEC teams. Texas A&M, they blew out the doors against a one-win Samford team, so they stay at number 3. Georgia, like Texas A&M, they beat a one-win Charlotte team. Good, congratulations. Hopefully all these cupcake games will be eliminated next season when the SEC goes to 9 SEC games. Ole Miss, they're on the bye week. A lot of happening in Oxford. We will get to that in the hot topics, but they fall actually to 6. Oregon jumps them to number 5. I'm going to be curious to see if the playoff committee does that as well. Oklahoma jumps up a couple of spots to number 8. Alabama just stays the same at number 10. You're not going to move up when you beat Eastern Illinois by 1 billion. Vandy moves up a couple of spots to 12. Texas as well moves up to 16. Tennessee moves up to 18. The only team really moving out of the pool is Missouri. So really not too many wild upsets happen like in the top 10. I mean, like I mentioned, Georgia Tech falling. Tulane continues to win. James Madison, North Texas. So the group of 5, I think it's really at this point between 3 teams, James Madison, Tulane, and North Texas. The ACC, I don't even know if they're going to get a damn single team in because Miami, they have to make it to the ACC championship, and they have like a 2% chance to make it. So Miami is probably out of it unless, you have like a Notre Dame losing this week. So it looks like the ACC might not even get a bid at this point. Will it be like SMU, Virginia? Who knows? But what do you expect for tomorrow night's rankings and how this thing is going to shake out the rest of the way?
I mean, I think it's going to be pretty similar to the AP poll. Yeah, I guess it comes out on Tuesday. Yeah, I mean, I think Vanderbilt is the team to watch. I think if they're firmly in the top 12, then I like their chances of making it. But if they're like 13 or 14, that's going to be tough with all the auto qualifiers. So I would expect Tennessee to maybe be a smidge lower as well. So are you saying that if the ACC doesn't, I guess what's the rule on that? So it's the top 5 conference champions or top 4 that are guaranteed?
I think it's the top 5, but I thought I saw somewhere like they have to be ranked like above like the group of 5. So
Okay.
like right now, Miami is the highest rank, but on like the graphic when I was watching like last week's show, it said like around Miami, it must be like a conference, like they have to win the conference champion.
And can't Notre Dame jump them?
Yeah, Notre Dame has the head-to-head against them. I believe Notre Dame.
Well, in the ACC hierarchy, if Notre Dame's ranked higher than the ACC champion, don't they get the? Or was that an old rule for the Orange Bowl?
I honestly have no idea.
Well, I mean, that would be a good year to invoke that rule, in my opinion, because Notre Dame's playing a hell of a lot better football than anybody in the ACC. But yeah, I mean, that aside, obviously the Big Ten champion's going to be a 1 or a 2. SEC is going to be right there behind them. The Big 12's been solid. And then I guess it comes down to the ACC and the group of 5.
Yeah, going to be a lot of chaos, especially this last week of the regular season into the conference championship. So we'll definitely monitor that, see what the playoff committee rankings has. So we will definitely keep track of all that moving forward. But let's go ahead and dive into SEC Fantasy Week 13 results. So it's been like a back and forth battle between Wade and I. Wade ended up taking last week. So the score is 7-5. So like I continue to mention, if I win one more week, SC Fantasy is pretty much clinched. But if Wade continues to win this week, it would move the score to 7-6 and it would come down to a tie. And then we would have to go to a tiebreaker, which we will have in bowl season. So let's go ahead and dive into SEC Fantasy Week 13 results. Wade, let's dive into your team to see if you can continue your winning streak.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, Arch Manning did everything I could possibly want out of him. This was a great coming out party for him. He's a guy that we thought we would see pretty much every other week in our show, but just hasn't been that way for Arch. But it certainly was on Saturday. He had 394 total yards. That was not all through the air. Arch Manning had a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. So what a week to pick him. I think there's extra touchdowns only added like 10 yards, but it's
Yeah.
good for a show factor. Harlan Berry, I mean, he had a good day on the ground, 82 yards. Ended up getting a little bit more of the split than Durham, but he did have a costly fumble as LSU was trying to close out the game. So
Yeah, after they showed Brian Kelly's son.
Yes, we will get to that in the hot topics because I have a segment for you.
Okay. Can't wait for that.
But yeah, Harlan Berry might have put himself in the doghouse with that fumble because what the hell,
not.
man. Kendrick Law, I tried to get cute and get another Kentucky Wildcat on here. He had been playing really good for Kentucky, but just got shut down against Vanderbilt. We have had really bad luck picking wide receivers. I think I have less than like 20 yards over the last 3 weeks combined. So, hey, Arch Manning did better than Kendrick Law as a receiver.
Yep.
And the South Carolina defense picked the right week to pick the Gamecocks. They were fantastic against Coastal Carolina, as was Lenora Sellers. So, a little too late for the Gamecocks, but 261 total yards. That's really good this late in the season. I know we had some cupcakes in there, but mainly picked SEC matchups, so that's a good score.
Yeah, I thought South Carolina's defense was going to blow up in your face, but I was definitely impressed with what I saw. I know it's Coastal Carolina, but they definitely needed that type of game, especially with the season that they had. So all in all, 261 total yards. We will see if that's going to be enough to get you the win, as we'll go to my team. And you complain about receivers. Quarterbacks have been the death of me because Joey Aguilar, which I mean, you put up 31 points, you only get 204 yards. I mean,
they just ran the football, man. They just ran.
Yep, I was expecting a lot more yardage, especially against the Florida secondary that's dealing with a lot of injuries. But 204 yards, Mike Washington, I'm going to build a statue of him right now because in the virtual world and in SEC fantasy, he has definitely been a dog for me, 148 yards. He did get 40 of those in the receiving. He was one of the more leading, pass catchers for the Razorbacks. Xavier Thomas, if you tune into the game, not too many points, but Xavier Thomas was one of the leading receivers for this LSU offense. That has definitely been abysmal this season, 47 yards. And hey, LSU's defense, back-to-back weeks that we took them in SC Fantasy, not too shabby for the Tigers, 152 yards. And I don't even think Western Kentucky had like 10 yards overall in the second half. I don't even think that they moved too much. The only touchdown they got was off of that scoop and score at the end there. And it was a close one in SC Fantasy, 247, so very close. But the difference was Arch Manning really doing everything for the Longhorns. So Wade wins back-to-back weeks, so it's 7-6. And all he needs is one more win to get this to a tie. I need one more win to win. So it's going to come down to the wire, and I think that's exactly what we wanted coming down here to Week 14 of this SEC Fantasy. So that is our Week 13 results, and let's go ahead and dive into our SEC Fantasy. This will be the last week of this type of roster. Then we'll go to the bowl season where things will double. We won't have an SEC Fantasy next week because, there's only going to be 2 teams, and that wouldn't really be much of a point there. But one quarterback, a running back, and a receiver in the defense is our roster. And at this point, we're pretty much over all these rules. You cannot draft the same player twice back-to-back weeks once we get to the bowl games. Say if you draft like Diego Pavia this week, you can, obviously take him in the bowl season. And then once you draft the defense, you can't use him again. I just thinking that this thing is going to be over with because Survivor defenses every single week is definitely a brutal way to do SEC fantasy, but it's what makes it fun. We just don't spam like the easiest defense against the FCS opponent. That is our rules. Well, let's go ahead and go into the draft. Wade did have the first overall pick, and he did use it on a quarterback, Diego Pavia, coming off of a 500-plus yard game against Kentucky, now heading on the road to Neyland Stadium to face off against Tennessee. Trinidad Chambliss is back on my roster. I don't even think that we would even imagine Trinidad Chambliss be on SC Fantasy. It looks like heading into the season would be Austin Simmons, but Chambliss feels like has been on this show for the majority of these quarterbacks. But he has a nice matchup against the Dogs in the Egg Bowl. So talk about Pavia and how he can get his Commodores into the college football playoff against Tennessee.
Absolutely. Everything is in front of Diego and the Vanderbilt Commodores. They got to defeat Tennessee on the road in Neyland. So it is a little bit of a risky pick here for me to go with that in a road environment. But I think Diego's just locked in, man. I mean, I think he really believes that he should be the Heisman Trophy winner. I'm not saying he should be, but, I think he's definitely in the conversation. And he's really gotten his numbers up the last couple of weeks. He's put up over 40 points in 2 consecutive games and over 400 total yards in 2 consecutive games. So if I can get 300 total yards, I would be very happy this week. But, I mean, I think the sky's the limit with him right now.
Well, you've been on a roll of quarterbacks 2 back-to-back weeks where you had like 380-plus yards. So we'll see if Pavia continue that. I'm going to go with Trinidad Chambliss. I actually think that this is going to be a high-scoring battle between both of these teams. Ole Miss's defense has really been playing well, but State has really nothing to lose at this point. Like they one more win, I believe, does get them into a bowl game. And Ole Miss obviously is probably a lock at this point for the college football playoff unless they lose. Who knows what could happen? But Trinidad Chambliss has really been sensational for this Ole Miss passing attack. So I'm going to go with Chambliss on Friday night. Now let's move on to our running backs, Nate Frazier and Ahmad Hardy. Frazier got a nice matchup against Georgia Tech. If you saw Pitt, Pitt ran all over that defense, Georgia Tech's defense. Has really playing well over the past couple of weeks. Ahmad Hardy versus Arkansas. Well, this is a prime matchup. I was definitely going to take Ahmad Hardy this week. But Nate Frazier, he's had some boom games. He had some dud games. But how do you like this matchup? This is a neutral site game, but will it be a neutral site game? Probably not, because let's be honest, there's going to be a lot of red in that stadium. But talk about Nate Frazier's matchup going up against the Georgia Tech defense.
Well, Georgia Tech's just trending in the wrong direction for me. And, I think Georgia could slice it many ways. I think they could air it out with Gunnar Stockton. He's playing great football right now. But, I don't think they want to put much on film for a potential SEC title game or first-round playoff matchup. I think they can get by just giving Frazier and their whole stable of running backs each 10, 15 carries and get out of Atlanta with a victory. Nothing too flashy, and that fits Frazier's game. So I think it's a good matchup for him.
Well, I didn't really have to think about my pick. Ahmad Hardy versus Arkansas's defense. I think we know well what's going to happen here. Ahmad Hardy not having a great game against a very solid Oklahoma front. Last time that he had a big game was against Mississippi State. He had almost over 300 yards. So Ahmad Hardy, if you just want to take me to the promised land and do that for me once again, I think that you're going to earn your SEC award here for fantasy. I think that it's either between Ahmad Hardy and Kawan Lacey at this point. So Ahmad Hardy, close out the book and close out your campaign. I get put up 200 yards against the Hogs. That's exactly what I want. I expect Frazier to have a big game too. That's why I countered with Ahmad Hardy. Now let's go on to the pass catchers. Well, it looks like you're just going to go with the pick of the litter here because you've been struggling at the receivers. You're going to go with KC Concepcion for Texas A&M. And A&M's wide receiver core has definitely been the most picked in SEC fantasy this season. Zachariah Branch, another Georgia Bulldog. So KC Concepcion, I think that this is going to be a high-score matchup too between the Aggies and the Longhorns. Do you see that as well? And I believe that's why you picked KC Concepcion.
Yeah, I definitely see there being some points on the board, but also it looks like Mario Craver is dealing with an injury. He missed this week, and I don't think he played the week before, or he was very quiet if he did. So KC Concepcion is the clear-cut wide receiver one in this locker room right now. Marcel Reed has been our most consistent quarterback, so I know he's going to get him the football. That's why we've seen him on the show a good bit. So give me KCC.
There we go, KCC. I'm going to go with Zachariah Branch. Last time I picked him, he had a nice game, over 100 yards. I think that he could definitely do that as well, especially with some injuries to the wide receiver core. I think that Zachariah Branch is really becoming Gunnar Stockton's favorite target. And Zachariah Branch, he's a speedy receiver. And like I mentioned, Georgia Tech's secondary has definitely been struggling. Pitt threw it all over them. So I definitely think that this could be a game that honestly gets away from the Yellow Jackets. So give me Zachariah Branch. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the defenses because Wade and I are left with not too many great picks as he's going to go with Missouri going up against a red-hot Arkansas offense that's been putting up 30 points in pretty much every game that they're playing this season. In Florida, coming off, Florida's defense hasn't really been that great the past couple of weeks either. So that's why we went with a lot of pretty much like vanilla picks like Pavia and Chambliss and all those guys that you've seen in the past. So how do you feel about the Missouri defense going up against an Arkansas offense that, like I mentioned, has been an underrated unit in the SEC?
Yeah, we both have to pad our stats because we don't know how much is going to be subtracted from our total, but I feel okay about this matchup. I mean, Missouri did play really well on defense against Oklahoma. They did enough to win the game. So if this game's sluggish, I mean, we might not see Taylon Green. So, I think there's an opportunity to see a good showing. After you preview your pick of Florida, I think we should play a little game for the viewers and see if you can guess the two teams you did not pick, and if I can. I think I know the two teams I didn't pick, but I think it would just be interesting to show the viewers who we really stayed away from this year.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Florida. I don't feel great about it, but also Florida State's offense, like what the hell has happened to them? Like outside of Alabama, they just been in a roller coaster. I mean, they put up 11 points really against NC State. They're coming into a hostile crowd. Florida got embarrassed. I just don't see this happening again for this defense because Florida's defense has really been solid.
There's some dogs on there. I mean,
like Tennessee is like their offense compared to Florida State. I think that if Florida can just like get below like 350, I'll take it. So I'll go with Florida's defense. All right, Wade, do you have an experiment? I guess we'll go ahead and do it.
All right. So, we do this eliminator defense or survivor defense, meaning that we can't repeat picks. So you might be saying, hey, why are you not picking, Alabama against Auburn this week or something? Well, we don't, or Georgia against Georgia Tech. Well, we don't have that luxury because we spent our Georgia pick back in week 4. So there's 14 regular season weeks, meaning that we each did not pick 2 teams. Tyler, do you know which 2 teams you did not pick this season?
I did not pick Arkansas and South Carolina.
Ding, ding, ding. And I think that's pretty fair. They've been pretty bad units. South Carolina's had its moments.
I was not touching Arkansas ever.
Yeah. I mean, look, Missouri doesn't look that good on offense, but I don't blame you. And I also did pick Arkansas very early on in the year. So I did not pick.
Started playing like some cupcake. Like,
yeah,
I don't know when. Actually, no, I think you might have taken like when they played Memphis. I think that was it.
Yeah, and they torched me. So bad pick there. I did not go with the Bulldogs or Tennessee, which I think, honestly, we avoided probably 4 of the worst defenses in the league.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with that. So, yeah, definitely a nice experiment. It's definitely fun to track that, like from season to season, of which defenses we didn't take. I think that you could tell from our picks that is probably the 4 defenses that you would also stay away from as well. So that is our final rosters for the regular season. Next time that you'll see SEC Fantasy will be double. We'll have our pick of the litter from our SEC playoff teams and also the regular Bulls as well.
Get our defenses back.
Yes, we'll have all of our defenses. Maybe then we'll we can't pick Arkansas because they won't be in a bowl game. Florida won't be. Who knows what, but we'll definitely be keeping an eye out on that, see where all of our SEC representatives will be in the bowl season once we get to that point. But it is now time for Week 14, a.k.a. Rivalry Week games and pick 'em here in the SEC. Obviously, there's also some big games outside of the conference, like the game between Ohio State and Michigan. You also have some big games as well, outside the conference too. But we will stay here in the conference. We do have some Friday games. The Egg Bowl usually did happen on Thanksgiving Day, which I wish it was still on Thanksgiving Day, but still, having it on Friday night. Actually, it's not even on Friday night. It's a damn at 11 a.m. game. Who the hell decided that this is the Egg Bowl? But, you have A&M in Texas. So I guess everything's going to be A-okay. But number 6, Ole Miss at Mississippi State. Both teams coming off of the bye week. Last time that we saw Ole Miss, they took down Florida, squeaked out a win against a Florida team that's been a roller coaster ride this season. Last time we saw Mississippi State, well, they got blown out by Missouri 49-27. Obviously, a lot's been happening around Oxford outside of the football team. So we'll have to see how locked in this team will be. I don't think that's going to be really a question. It's the Egg Bowl. It's an annual rivalry game. So Ole Miss versus Mississippi State. Who do you have taking home that golden egg trophy that you're seeing in the background?
things could get wacky here. I mean, let's see how this week's news cycle goes. Lane Kiffin, Bolt, um, maybe Mississippi State shocks the world and beats Ole Miss. It is at home. I think that plays to their advantage. I actually think the 11 a.m. game could be good for Mississippi State. I know that it would be fun if it was at night, but I mean, I think
especially after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think that's a good time to catch people being a little sluggish. Like Ole Miss is going to have a team Thanksgiving. They're gonna eat that turkey, and they might be a little sluggish out the gate. Trinidad Chambliss definitely hasn't played in an environment like this, so I could see it happening. But I'm going to go with the vanilla pick. I am going to go with Ole Miss, just because I think there is a talent gap there. But you can make the case for State.
Yeah, you can definitely make the case. I mean, it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. It doesn't matter what your record is on both sides. I definitely think that, Mississippi State, this is really the right time to catch Ole Miss off guard. I definitely agree with you, like 11 a.m. After like the day of Thanksgiving. We'll see how good of an environment it is because, most of the students are on Thanksgiving break. We'll see how much students will stay back. So that's definitely going to play into it. Mississippi State's defense, though, has definitely been abysmal these past couple of weeks. Especially, I mean, you gave up 300 yards rushing against Ahmad Hardy. Kawan Lacey is 1A, 1B to Ahmad Hardy. So with the way Mississippi State's defense has been playing, I think that it's going to be a lot of points. Ole Miss's defense has really been playing well. I'm going to go with Ole Miss. I think they're just a better team at this point. I think it will be close for at least 3 quarters, and in the fourth quarter, you'll see Ole Miss pull away like 38 to the 28 type of score. But I'm going to go with the Rebels. I think that they take back the Egg Bowl. Well, they've been having the Golden Egg Trophy, so they'll take it back up to Oxford. Jet's going to go with the other way, going to go with Mississippi State. I definitely could see this happen as well. So that is our first discrepancy. A fair warning, this will not be the last as we will go through all these games here. We'll continue with our Friday slate here. This is a Friday afternoon game. Like I mentioned, this is a neutral site game, if you want to call it a neutral site. It's in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Number 4, Georgia versus number 23, Georgia Tech. If you flash back to last season, it took 9 overtimes to decide this game. Do you see that happening again? Who do you have winning this one in the clean old-fashioned hate?
Let's talk about this for a minute. It is absolute horse crap that Georgia's administration bullied Georgia Tech into moving this game to a neutral site at their second home in Atlanta.
Neutral, yeah. It's going to be more red in that stadium. Let's be real.
I mean, Georgia might as well have an Arkansas arrangement with Little Rock because they play like 2 games a year in Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Turner Field, you're going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, like, go play this thing in Savannah if you want a true neutral site.
Yeah,
like,
go play in the Savannah Stadium, yeah.
Yeah, like, just because it's in the same city as Georgia Tech does not mean that it gives them any bit of an advantage. If anything, it's just more seats for the red and black.
That's a disadvantage.
It wouldn't matter this year, though. I mean, Georgia Tech, if you look, I mean, every week they're down like 21-0, and then, okay, they pull off some miracle upset.
It'd barely be like some lower tier ACC teams, too.
Yeah, like Boston College. They're like 1-10, and they had to pull off a Hail Mary. And Wake Forest earlier this year, Georgia Tech.
Yeah, Wake Forest is pretty good, though. They have, like, Robbie Ashford. He's been cooking over there.
I guess I've not paid enough attention to the deep.
They have 8 wins now.
All right. But still, I mean, come on. It's not you can't get down by 21 against Georgia. And I think they will be. And I think that Georgia just continues to pour it on. Georgia's trying to make a case for, a first-round bye. They got it as it stands right now, but they want to make sure they don't get jumped by a team like Ole Miss, or if Alabama were to win the SEC or something like that. So they got to stake their claim. I'm going with the Dogs.
Yeah, I think in the preseason, I probably would have went the other way. I think that this Georgia Tech team definitely had a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, but I've seen enough from Georgia Tech this season, seen a lot of sample size there. I think Georgia, if you ask them, they'd be A-okay to skip the SEC championship. Just win this game, give me the first-round bye, and, give me whoever. Give me the 12 seed match, like the 5-4 matchup or whatever there. I would definitely, prefer that if I'm Georgia. I honestly don't really expect this to be close. I just think that Georgia's going to dominate them Georgia Tech, like last season was a season to beat Georgia. Like that was your chance. You missed out on it. Haynes King is a terrific quarterback. Jamal Haynes, is a terrific running back. But this defense have definitely been lacking. And the way this Georgia offense has really found their identity here the past couple of weeks. Give me Georgia by at least 14 points. Jets going to go the other way. It's rivalry week. Anything could happen. Like I mentioned, he's going to go for another upset with Georgia Tech. And he has a lot of chaos happening. So we will see. He has, Mississippi State beating Ole Miss, and now Georgia Tech pulling out the win against Georgia. So he just has SEC teams falling, maybe not really out of the college football playoff, but seeding-wise could definitely get a little bit tricky if that goes to fruition. We'll continue with our Friday slate. This is our Friday night game, and what a treat it is to really kick off this holiday weekend. Number 3, Texas A&M. At number 16, Texas. I am so happy that this rivalry game is back. We saw it for the first time since Justin Tucker. That game when he kicked the game-winning field goal. We saw last year's game. It was a defensive battle. A&M ended up falling to Texas in College Station. Texas A&M is 11-0 heading into this game. They just need a win to book their trip to Atlanta for the first time in their program history. And Texas is looking to play spoiler there and look to keep alive whatever hopes that they have at the college football playoff at this point. So who do you have winning this one between the Aggies and the Longhorns?
This one's interesting to me because, I think Texas still does have a little bit of an outside chance at the college football playoff, but they would have to pull off this win, and they'd have to win big. I'm just too big of a believer in Marcel Reed. I think Arch Manning's going to push the ball as well, but I just don't see Texas having any sort of run game against Texas A&M. And I think if A&M's run game does get going, they could gash Texas. So give me A&M with a statement win. And look, if A&M wins this one big and they win the SEC, I think they should have a stake at the number 1 spot, at least number 2 in the country. But we'll see how things shake out in the Big Ten.
Yeah, especially with Indiana. I think that very well. We know that they're going to finish the season 12-0. But if Ohio State beats Michigan this year, this week actually, we'll have Ohio State and Indiana clash. And if Texas A&M wins, goes to 12-0, depending on what happens in that Big 12, a lot of things can happen, but I think it's an outside shot that A&M could get that number 1 spot. Comparing the resumes, Ohio State's win over Texas is improving week by week. With Texas winning, and Notre Dame, Texas A&M's win is looking better. They beat Syracuse like a drum, 70-7. So everything's going to play out. I honestly don't really think that they care where they're seated. As long as they have a first-round bye, I think that's all that they care about. But do you really want to have a first-round bye? Because we saw last year, it feels like every team that had a first-round bye, lost last season. So do you really want to have that first-round bye? I guess we'll see if that continues here. But going back to this game, I expect a lot of points. Like I mentioned, last year's game was very defensively, but both of these defenses, like A&M was down 30-3 at half to South Carolina. I know they came back and won, but there's been some games where A&M's defense have definitely been vulnerable. And the way that Arch Manning has looked, I definitely think that Arch Manning versus Marcel Reed is going to be a terrific quarterback battle. So it's going to be a back and forth game. But give me the Longhorns to pull this one out.
I respect that.
I really like the way that this offense has been looking, and I don't think that A&M's defense is really going to shut down their running game, both with C.J. Baxter and Quintrivion Wisener. I think there's going to be a lot of big plays, though, especially from the receivers with Parker Livingston and the KC Concepcion, but I'm going to go with Texas in the home team at night to win this one. Chet's going to go the opposite way. He's going to go with the Aggies. So we continue to be in disagreement here. Now let's go on to our Saturday slate, starting off with our morning game, the Governor's Cup battle here between Kentucky at Louisville. Kentucky coming off of embarrassment against Vandy. Louisville coming also off an embarrassment, losing 31-6 to SMU. Louisville feels like a couple of weeks ago they were ranked in the top 15. It looks like they were going to be a lock pretty much for the ACC title. they have fallen apart. Last time that we saw both of these teams, it was actually in Lexington, and Louisville ended up winning 45-14 last season. So are you, you've been picking the Wildcats the past couple of weeks. They just got blown out. Is that going to be changing for you?
I mean, I don't want to, but Louisville's not shown me anything either. I mean, they looked really, really bad. They lost to Stanford or Cal or something, and then again this week. I'm going to go with Kentucky in this one. I mean, they're fighting for bowl eligibility. I think this team's played pretty well down the stretch. I think that they want to continue to grow under this young quarterback and, keep the season alive. So I'm going to go with Kentucky here, but this could be a pretty ugly football game. I mean, I'm talking 4+ turnovers on each side, like maybe like a 23-22 type game.
Yeah, Louisville's season has been weird. They definitely have a lot of talent to really be at the top of the ACC. But like you mentioned, a lot of bad losses recently that they have piled up. Kentucky, they've had some good wins, but they're still the team that I thought, in my opinion. So with all that being said, and it was a blowout last year, does Kentucky really have a different team that they can just turn it around like that? It's going to be a close one, I believe. But I'm going to go with the home team. I'm going to go with the Cards. I think they do bounce back in a big way and hoist that Governor's Cup and keep it in Louisville. And Chet's going to go with the Kentucky Wildcats. So you're starting to see a trend here that I am pretty much on an island on these games. So we'll see how that plays out in the standings. We will continue with our rivalry games slate. The Palmetto Bowl, Clemson at South Carolina. In the preseason, this would have been a top 15 matchup. Now it's just a bag of garbage at this point. Clemson, I believe at this point, that's clinched a bowl eligibility. I think they just got their 6th win, if I'm right. South Carolina, well, they can't get to a bowl eligibility. So this will be their bowl game. So Clemson at South Carolina. Wade, you've been pretty much involved in this rivalry game your whole entire life. So are you going to go with the Gamecocks at home or go with the Tigers on the road team?
Hey, look, South Carolina might not be making a trip down to sunny Florida, but this is how they want it, man. They wouldn't want it any other way. This is the bowl game. They're hosting Clemson. They can't really ruin Clemson's season because it's been off the rails for a while, but they definitely want to leave a stain on the season and tuck that tiger tail. So yep. I'm going to go with the Gamecocks here. I mean, I think the Sellers brothers are turning it on late here. Lenoris at quarterback, and then his little brother has actually been their leading receiver each of the last 2 weeks. So I think they'll continue that relationship and just try to get a little bit of momentum into next season, because anybody in that state knows that if no matter how bad your season goes, if you beat each other, you're bought a little bit of time and a little bit of grace. So that's what Beamer needs.
Yeah, that is true. Well, he might have one more season if he does this thing again in 2026. He is definitely gone because I don't think there's going to be that many job openings that you're seeing in this cycle. But yeah, this has definitely turned into a very good preseason matchup to a very underperforming matchup between the Gamecocks and the Tigers. And Clemson, they've had some big wins in the past couple of weeks. Cade Klubnik is starting to turn on like Lenoris Sellers. So this is going to be a phenomenal quarterback battle. I do expect this one to be a more defensive game, kind of similar to what happened last year coming down to the wire. But South Carolina, you lost me. I'm going to go with the Clemson. I mean, South Carolina. I mean, congratulations. You beat the Doors off Coastal Carolina. I know it's at home, but Clemson's definitely going to want some revenge, what happened for last year. So give me Dabo's boys to take home the Palmetto Bowl. Jet's going to go with the Gamecocks. So the theme continues here on the show. Now let's move on to LSU at number 8, Oklahoma. If you want to talk about ugly, well, sign you up for this one. But last time that we saw this matchup, LSU actually won pretty comfortably, 31-14 in Death Valley. Obviously, 2 different quarterbacks in that game, Jackson Arnold and Garrett Nussmeier. We'll see if Garrett Nussmeier plays in this one. I have no idea if he's going to suit up for them or not. If not, then it's going to be Michael Van Buren again. But LSU's offense, the stinker of the season, going up against probably one of the best defenses in the SEC. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I mean, it's time to put Chet on an island because, he doesn't pick against the Tigers. And I just don't see this LSU offense putting up anything on Oklahoma. I mean, this is a good defense. So give me the Sooners. I don't think it's going to be a great game, but I think Mateer will do just enough to outduel Van Buren in this one.
I think Oklahoma has a very good opportunity to get the shutout here because LSU putting up 13 points against the same Western Kentucky team that led up 45 against a Toledo team. They led up 25 against FIU. Oklahoma, I mean, I just saw what they did against Ahmad Hardy. LSU won't be able to do jack crap against Oklahoma, to be honest with you. I've seen a lot of sample size. Nothing's going to change. Give me Oklahoma. They're going to want some revenge last year because LSU honestly won that game pretty comfortably. Give me Oklahoma like 24 to like 3 or nothing at this point. I think it's going to be like Oklahoma is just going to cruise for 4 quarters and they're going to move on to the college football playoff. Jets still holding out some hope for the Tigers to play some spoiler. I guess we'll see. Maybe grace of God that LSU will actually score a touchdown in this game, but Jets going to go with the purple and gold as he always does. I don't think that there's been one single week in the entirety of SEC talk that Jed's gone against the Tigers. But now let's move on to our next game. This is our SEC talk game of the week. A lot of implications. The Leafs on one side, Tennessee, could get into the Citrus Bowl. Who knows? But number 12, Vandy, at number 18, Tennessee. It was actually an embarrassment for the Commodores last season. When everybody was talking about Vandy and Tennessee just blew them out in Nashville to punch their ticket to the college football playoff. So, in-state battle, how do you see this one playing out between the Doors and the Vols?
That is true. I was in Tennessee last year when this game was played, and, the locals were very much making fun of Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia, and I don't think that he's forgotten that, and it's his turn to rewrite the script here, flip it. But that being said, Tennessee knows that it can spoil Vanderbilt's season yet again at home at Neyland Stadium. But like I said, I think Diego's just on a mission right now. So I'm going to go with Vanderbilt in this one. But it wouldn't surprise me if Tennessee plays spoiler.
Well, there's going to be a lot of fireworks in this game. 2 high-powered offenses here in the SEC, Diego Pavia versus Joey Aguilar. I mean, there's a lot of weapons on both sides. Like you mentioned, Tennessee could play spoiler, and that's exactly what I have them doing here. Vandy, that's a nice Cinderella story, but going into that environment, that's different. You could have a 5th-year senior. You could have a 10th-year senior. It doesn't matter. You're walking into that environment. I think that Tennessee, that's all that they want to do is just knock Vandy out of the college football playoff. I know it hasn't been like the season that Tennessee has expected. I mean, honestly, they probably should have won that Georgia game. They would have been heading into 10-2 this game. But I'm going to go with Tennessee. The way that this defense too played against this Florida team. But I'm going to go with the Volunteers at Neyland Stadium, and I'm surprised I'm the lone one. But I guess you're just all on Diego Pavia in the Cinderella story. I mean, I want to see Vanderbilt in this college football playoff. It'd definitely be a huge story. But I see Tennessee playing spoiler. But we will see.
Chet went with Diego.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Maybe he's lining up to the Diego Pavia family. But let's move on to our rivalry game, the Battle Line rivalry between Missouri at Arkansas. Well, they're just playing to get their first taste of victory here in the conference. It's really been a rough season. I mean, they've had a lot of close games in the SEC. This is not a bad football team. I know they only have 2 wins overall. We'll see what coaching changes are going to be on the way for the Razorbacks. Missouri, they're 7-4, definitely needing a win there because this has definitely been an okay season. Definitely a little bit of disappointment for them. So how do you see the Battle Line rivalry going down? Do you have the Hogs getting their first win and taking home a trophy and feeling themselves, or do you have Missouri getting the job done?
Oh, man, I could see this one going either way. It does help Missouri that they got Bo Prabula back, no doubt. Ahmad Hardy could absolutely gash Arkansas. All that's true, but I can't believe Arkansas is the only team in the SEC without a conference win. I mean, they've been bad. No, don't get me wrong. They've been bad. But have they been that bad? I mean, are they worse?
I would put Arkansas against some of the bottom feeders in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, really, Mississippi State, Kentucky, they all have wins in the SEC. I think it's time for Arkansas to get it. And I think they pull off a little bit of an upset here.
Ooh, Pig Suey. I like that pick. I'm honestly like rooting for them to get their first win in the SEC because that is definitely an abysmal feeling for a fan to not, get a taste of victory. Arkansas has definitely had that in the past. But I'm going to go Missouri. I think that, this could be another high scoring game too. I mean, you got Taylor Green on one side, Bo Pabula. You got the two running backs too, Mike Washington versus Ahmad Hardy. So Arkansas, this game is always close, it feels like. But I am going to go Missouri. Sorry, Arkansas. We'll be rooting for you, though, to get you your first win there. But, I just feel like this is going to be an Ahmad Hardy game where they're just going to hand the ball off like 30 times, and he's going to go nuclear. Jet's going to go Missouri as well. So there you go. You're first on the island on this show with the Hogs getting their first SEC win in the last week of the regular season. That would only make sense. Now let's move on to our next game, the Sunshine Showdown, otherwise known as the mid-off here in the 2025 campaign. Florida State at Florida. Florida State, I guess, is playing for a bowl game at this point. Florida, well, just looking to end Florida State's season at 5-7. So Florida State, Mike Norvell was announced today that he's going to be back. Probably because, well, there's a lot of big-time openings, and they're probably going to give him one more year. And if he sucks again, well, then Florida State will be open next season. So it's in Gainesville. Are you going to go with the Gators or are you going to go with the Noles to get this thing done?
Man, I didn't know Florida State was that bad at 5-7 or 5-6.
They have completely crumbled after that week 1 victory over Bama.
Yeah, then Alabama's getting too much credit, in my opinion. But no, I mean, Florida's ready to just sim the next season and figure out where they fall in Lane Kiffin's pecking order. They don't care about this game. They didn't care on Saturday against Tennessee, so give me Florida State.
Well, I picked Florida. I was the only guy to pick Florida, but I'm going to go back to them. I don't know why. It's just a rivalry game that Florida State hasn't really shown me too much the past couple of weeks. I think this is, if you're looking for an ugly game, this is the game for you, ladies and gentlemen. This could be like a scoregami, like a 14-13 type of game. We're going down to the wire, maybe needing a late game field goal, but I think that you see one more good game at DJ Lagway. He finds it in him. He's coming off a horrendous show. I just don't see the Gators getting trounced in back-to-back games, especially at home and especially at night too. I mean, come on. The fans have been showing up. That hasn't been the case, but Florida State hasn't really shown me much on that side. So I will go with the Gators in an ugly defensive game. Chet's going to go with the Seminoles here. So back on the island, I guess. The standings I cannot wait for because I'm either going to have a good record or I'm going to have a god-awful record, but I guess we'll find out here in a week or so. Now let's move on to my favorite rivalry games here in the SEC, and that is the Iron Bowl. It doesn't matter what your record is. That is all thrown out because you know damn well it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. Number 10, Alabama at Auburn. Alabama is playing for their playoff hopes, and boy, Auburn would just love to end their hopes and dreams right now. So how do you see the Iron Bowl shaping out here in 2025?
Boy, would they. I mean, that would be pretty crazy. And look, Alabama did lose to that 5-6 Florida State team that we just covered. So you can't say that's beneath them because they've already done it. And it was a road game. I'm glad to see this game back in the night spot. It kind of got lost in the CBS 2:30 spot there for a while.
I hated that.
But I think it's good in the day, but it's good to have it at night every now and then. I don't know. I'm still a big believer in Ty Simpson though, and I think Auburn's new quarterback situation is intriguing, whether it's Daniels or Deuce Knight. But I'm gonna go Roll Tide.
Yeah, going with Alabama there. So if Alabama wins this one, not only they would be locked for the playoff, but for the SEC, well, they wouldn't be locked in the playoff because if they win, well, they got to win another game in the SEC championship game. So this might be a win-lose scenario for the Crimson Tide if they do win this one. But always a treat for the Iron Bowl. The kick six is honestly like one of my favorite my favorite all-time moments. I know that was a couple years back, but I just remember that watching in my living room, just going crazy for that. But I think Auburn's offense has really defined their identity, whether that's behind Ashton Daniels or Deuce Knight. It's going to be interesting who they roll with. Do they go with Ashton Daniels? Do they go with Deuce Knight? I think that you roll with the freshman, to be honest with you, in this one. Maybe just go with a 2-quarterback system and just
I think you'll see both.
Yeah, I think you will see both, maybe 3, maybe bring in
I think
Jackson
you'll see
Arnold.
Arnold coming in the red
Yeah.
zone. I mean, I think
Yeah, who
that's
knows? So
something he can do.
Auburn's playing with house money. So give me this is all. I just feel like this is an Auburn spot. We have seen this too many times in this one where Alabama just needs one more win to get into the playoff, and Auburn just beats them. I think it's going to be a close. Maybe I don't think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think that this could be a weird and wacky game that gets into the 30s for both teams. But give me Auburn to get it done. I think that I probably wouldn't pick Auburn, but I think, with DJ Durkin, and this offense has completely changed with Hugh Freeze gone. And this defense has really been stout. I know they gave up 45 to Vandy, but they have really been stout in SEC
They might
games.
promote Durkin if they win.
Yeah, definitely. So give me Auburn. Chet's going with War Eagle as well. So Chet and I are riding with the upset.
I'll take that island.
Yeah, you're riding with Alabama to get it done in the annual Iron Bowl. All right, that is all of our rivalry games. Now let's go get to our hot topics. First up, let's get to our SEC championship game scenarios. Let me go ahead and try and pull this up here. Well, of course, I try to pull it up and it immediately goes away. Let me go ahead and pull this up. So we have 4 scenarios where only 4 teams, at this point, can qualify for the SEC championship. First up for Texas A&M, it's simple. You win and you're in. Or if they lose to Texas, then they would need an Alabama or an Ole Miss loss. So Texas A&M is pretty simple. If they beat Texas, they will be in Atlanta. Alabama, well, it's even simpler. If they beat Auburn, they will clinch their spot in the SEC championship. For Georgia, they would either obviously it doesn't even matter if they lose to Georgia Tech because they are done in SEC play. But they would need an Alabama loss or a Texas A&M loss. So keep an eye on that if you're a Georgia fan. Ole Miss, still in the conversation. They would need to win on Friday against Mississippi State. And they would also need a Texas A&M and Alabama loss. And obviously under my scenario, well, I would have Ole Miss actually in the SEC championship, I believe, against Georgia. So that would definitely be a wild scenario there. I believe in your scenarios, you would have it pretty vanilla with Texas A&M and Alabama facing off against each other, which we haven't seen that matchup this season. That would definitely be a treat to watch in Atlanta. So that's all your scenarios there. The next one is Dan Lanning takes a shot at the SEC. As you noticed this past week, the SEC was the majority of the SEC teams were playing a lot of cupcakes. And Dan Lanning, after that, they took down USC. He said, we didn't play Chattanooga State today, right? Like some other places. And then he pretty much said, we competed. It's tough playing 9 conference games. It's tough playing in this league. What do you think about Dan Lanning's comments taking a shot at the SEC? I agree with the SEC teams, playing cupcakes, but have you seen some of these like Big Ten team schedules? Like they haven't played nobody for this whole entire season.
Yeah, it is pretty bad. So I think it's warranted, but it's just a matter of when you play these games. Oregon played their gimme games too. So until it's eradicated from the entire college football realm, it doesn't matter. It just is what it is. And there's always going to be good teams and there's always going to be bad teams. I guarantee you Dan Lanning's not wanting to sign up to play Texas A&M this week.
No, absolutely not. I'm going to skip over this next hot topics. I want to save the Lane Kiffin one for last. We'll go to some upset alerts because I think that we all have a lot of upsets, especially Chet and I. So which team do you think in the SEC, or maybe even give me outside the conference, who should be on upset alert?
Well, yeah, I didn't pick any like major upsets within the SEC. I do think your Auburn pick is intriguing. I think Deuce Knight brings another element to that game. So Alabama should be on alert for sure. Looking out of the conference, I'd have to see who else playing in the Big 12. But, that could get interesting. I think Ohio State gets it done against Michigan this year, though. So I don't really see anything too crazy, to be honest. But Alabama would be the big domino because, honestly, it would really clear things up for the college football playoff, too. Because there's a scenario where Alabama does win this week and then loses in the conference championship, and that puts them at 3 losses as a non-conference champion. Do you drop them out and punish them for playing that extra game and reward a 2-loss team like Oklahoma? I don't know, or a 2-loss team like Vanderbilt that Alabama beat. So I think the committee
Yeah, I don't
would
even
be
want to
very
think
fine
about
with
that.
that.
There's too many scenarios. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think to my question, I mean, I'm putting pretty much every team on upset alert in my
Yeah.
picks. Texas A&M on upset alert, Alabama on upset alert. So the damn whole slate. You know what? Give me chaos. 2007. Come on. There's been too many vanillas, not even too many upsets. Give me some upsets this week. Let everything crap the bed and let the committee actually make some decisions, because I feel like it's been a little bit too easy for them. So I think that a lot of teams in the SEC, like A&M and Alabama, are the two teams that I would put on upset alert. All right, let's go ahead and close out the hot topics. I believe that you also had a bonus hot topic. We will get to that after the Lane Kiffin one. But Lane Kiffin, if you've been, he's been pretty much in the news throughout the whole entire week. Lane Kiffin did meet with both the AD and the Chancellor of Ole Miss, going through some things in his future. There has been a contract extension on the table from Ole Miss to Lane Kiffin, but he has still not signed that as well. So supposedly, and reported by both the AD and Ole Miss, he is expected to make a decision on Saturday after the Egg Bowl. So there's three teams in pursuit of Mr. Kiffin. That is Ole Miss, Florida, and LSU. So just what are the overall takeaways on this situation, and where do you end up having Lane Kiffin going?
I guess my overall take is, if I'm Lane Kiffin, I'm looking at what I saw on Saturday. Florida looked lost against Tennessee. LSU looked lost against Western Kentucky. I don't know which one was worse, because LSU did ultimately win, but if they were playing Tennessee, they certainly wouldn't have. So I guess you got to look at where you're at. I mean, you're a top 10 team, pretty much a lock for the college football playoff, versus really having to turn over a roster at either one of those other opportunities. I get that those two schools are more prestigious overall in the history of SEC football, but I kind of think in this NIL era, Ole Miss can be competitive. I think they're going to spend money. I think that the fan base believes in him, and any in-state talent, which I think Mississippi is an underrated recruiting hotbed, is going to go to Ole Miss. I mean, Mississippi State's not competition for them, as they're as much competition to Ole Miss as UL is to LSU. I mean, it's not a big deal. So I don't know. I'd just be very hesitant to give that up if I was Lane Kiffin. He's kind of been the guy that's chased jobs throughout his career. I mean, he's been at Tennessee, at USC, Alabama as an assistant. So he's been at all the big stops. I'd just settle down and be the best coach in Ole Miss history. But it's Lane Kiffin. I could see him making the move to LSU, but I'm just not too keen on it. I just think that could be a lot of money for a failed experiment. But I'm curious to hear your take on this.
Well, as you can tell from all the background stuff, I think you know where I've been. For years, I've been proclaiming for LSU to go big and get one of the best offensive minds in the country, and that's Lane Kiffin. That's where I stand. I don't need to even talk anymore about it. I guess we'll find out here this week, and I guess we'll talk about it whatever happens next week on SEC Talk. We do have obviously a comment from my big celebration if Lane Kiffin will be the next LSU head coach. I think if you ask a lot of LSU fans, I think that's the majority of their claim as well. So obviously, we could talk about the backup candidates as well, but we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to let things play out, and once we have a coach, we'll talk about it. So Wade, you did have one more hot topic to get into, what happened on senior night in Baton Rouge. So why don't you take it away?
Yes, a bonus segment called Clown of the Week. Who is the Clown of the Week? Well, I think it's Kenzel Kelly of LSU, the guy that nobody knew was on the team the entirety of his tenure at LSU. And, if you didn't see the video, he used his senior day introduction as a chance to vouch for his dad, which is admirable, but he did it in a very nonsense way. And I think if you're Frank Wilson, you got to sit him down after the game and kick him off.
Kick him off the team at that point.
I know there's only one game left, and maybe that's what he wants, is he wants to be fired like his dad. But come on, like you're a walk-on. I had to look up to see that he was a linebacker because he was wearing number 50. I thought he might be like a backup center. He's huge. He obviously was never going to touch the field at LSU.
Yeah.
And you're just going to just embarrass yourself to your dad's former employer that you're in a lawsuit with. I mean, I hope there's some sort of clause that can cost Brian Kelly $10 or $15 million off this. And I mean, on a sadder note, you're teammates with Kyron Lacey, who died last year, and all the players have been using the hashtag long live Lacey or, something along those lines. And you're going to say long live Kelly. Like, they should just beat his ass in the locker room, in my opinion, and kick him out of the state.
Yeah, that was honestly the most entertaining part about that game was the shirtless guys in the student section, because this honestly has been like the worst offense that I've seen. Like, I went through the Les Miles games. At least when Les Miles offense, they could actually run the freaking football and not even run like 1 yard against Western Kentucky. So I'm happy that we only get like 1 or 2 more games of this god-awful offense, and hopefully we can get an offensive guy in here to really change things up. That's going to be it. We're going to talk about some positive stuff. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. We've pretty much talked about LSU went in their troubles, whatever. It's Thanksgiving. A lot to be thankful for. Hope everybody enjoys their Thanksgiving and time with family. Football, NFL-wise, the games could be better. Obviously, you'll have some Friday games in college football, leading off with the Egg Bowl. You'll have Texas and Texas A&M on Friday, and a full slate on Saturday. So we get another full slate and one more week of the regular season. So we will be back here next week, recapping what happened in Rivalry Week here in the conference, and also looking nationwide at the conference championships. We're also going to bring in a guest picker, someone who actually knows more broad-wide of all the conferences. And then we will probably be doing that on Monday night. So definitely tune in to next week as we, start previewing, the postseason, both for the conference championship and more playoff discussion. So hope you enjoy your holiday week, your Thanksgiving, and we'll see you back here on SEC Talk.